This week's episode is sponsored by Brain Enemas. Cleanse your mind of unwanted thoughts and useless information. Live from the seventh corner of the world, it's the Disembodied Voice Speaks. I am your host, M.L. Mysterious, aka the Disembodied Voice. Ooh, spooky. So I am pleased to announce that the show has moved up an entire slot on the Supernatural podcast chart. Last week, we were ranked number 14,355, and this week, we moved all the way up to 14,354. This is truly an exciting day for us at DVS, and we could not have done it without the love and support of our dedicated fans. We have an incredible show for you tonight. Coming up next, the best ways to extract DNA from your yoga instructor, the secret of dental floss and what your dentist is really hiding from you, and 5 reasons why you should stick your fork in an electrical socket. But first, a quick announcement. The annual Time Travelers Convention has been rescheduled to last September. We apologize for any inconvenience. And now, on to our top stories for the week. The world's most polite criminal has struck again. Just last Monday, he was spotted robbing a convenience store in Leonardo, New Jersey. Security footage shows him walking up to the store counter unarmed and politely asking the cashier to empty the register. He was so friendly and cordial, says cashier Rachel Sprite. What was I supposed to do, say no? According to Sprite, the man left with nearly $600 from the register. Eyewitnesses claim they saw him escape in a black getaway car before stopping at an intersection to let a family of ducks cross the street. While his name still remains unknown, police have described him as a 6-foot-tall male with short brown hair and the gosh darn friendliest smile you've ever seen. In other news, Timothy Bryant, the boy prophesized to one day cure cancer, has officially dropped out of medical school. After less than a semester at Johns Hopkins University, the 22-year-old has apparently left the school due to poor academic performance. Bryant was only 3 when he was prophesized by the Council of Elders to one day find a cure for all forms of cancer. This prophecy led to massive amounts of media attention throughout Bryant's childhood, including multiple interviews, 2 documentary series, and 1 Lifetime movie adaptation starring Haley Joel Osment. Bryant plans to focus more attention on his music and claims the first mixtape from his hardcore rap group Da Pony Boys will drop this February. The Great Sitcom War has officially reached its 13th week. The conflict began as an online debate about whether Seinfeld is a better show than Friends, but has since escalated to a full-out war between the fan bases of both shows, resulting in over 200 casualties and nearly $300,000 in property damage. Tensions escalated even further when members of the so-called Monica Militia kidnapped Jerry Seinfeld and held him hostage in an undisclosed location for 4 days. After the 4th day, they realized that they had not kidnapped the famous comedian, but a 60-year-old shoe salesman with the same name. Mr. Seinfeld was released later that day, along with an official apology from the Monica Militia's social media page. And finally, NASA discovered the remains of Bucky the Clown on the surface of Mars this past Wednesday. Bucky was originally hired for the birthday party of Bartholomew Brackett, son of trillionaire oil tycoon Montague Brackett. The party took place at the Brackett's luxurious resort on the surface of Mars, before an unexpected dust storm forced the party to evacuate in the Brackett's personal space shuttle. Bucky the Clown, as well as 6 other attendees, were left behind. The autopsy report claims the clown died of asphyxiation, but photos have also revealed massive bite marks on his legs and torso. These bite marks have been described by doctors as similar to a dog or some large mammal. Montague Brackett has yet to comment. Coming up after these sponsored messages, Gregorian monk chants and why they are making Wall Street nervous, how to use your dollar store coupons to overthrow the government, and what to do when your dog learns to speak and only talks about moon landing conspiracies. Friends, do you ever feel stressed, overwhelmed, like you have a billion thoughts swimming around your head at all times? Do you find it hard to concentrate on one simple task? Do you ever feel like your brain needs some air? Luckily for you, there is a cure. Thanks to new advancements in brain science, there is now an affordable, efficient, and sustainable way to cleanse your mind of all those pesky, unwanted thoughts. Introducing Brain Enemas, a groundbreaking new medical process that you can perform in the comfort of your own home. How does it work? A fluid called cerebral clyster is injected into your brain through your nasal cavity, allowing all your unwanted and unnecessary thoughts to naturally excrete from your ears in a process called leakage. Now you can focus on your work without any distractions. Doctors are warning brain enema users not to inject more than 45 milligrams of cerebral clyster at a time, as too much fluid can cause severe brain damage and memory loss. Brain enemas are mostly safe, reasonably priced, and pending approval from the FDA. And if you order now using our exclusive gift code, you can get over 50% off on your next purchase. Just go to www.brainenema.com and enter the code VOICESPEAKS, and you will be eligible for some amazing offers. Our top story tonight concerns an incredibly peculiar series of happenings in a remote town located in the middle of nowhere, USA. Miller's Hatch is a quiet suburb in the small town of Whisper, New Jersey. Whisper is an obscure little village located nearly 2,000 miles from the nearest metropolitan area. Those driving by may have difficulty finding the town, as it is so small and so insignificant that many maps forget to even include it. Nearly 99% of Whisper citizens have never ventured outside the town, with many of them still inhabiting the same houses that they grew up in. The neighborhood of Miller's Hatch is home to most of the town's retirees and senior citizens, with the median age of residents being 71 years. It is in this quiet, innocuous suburb that 65-year-old Bob Humbert screamed so loud that his head exploded. On March 10th, at approximately 2:30 a.m., the residents of Miller's Hatch were awakened by the sound of Bob's blood-curdling scream, which neighbors described as sounding more like an air raid siren than a human voice. The screaming lasted 2.5 minutes, its sheer intensity and volume shattering some nearby car windows. Afterwards, the neighbors ran outside to discover Bob's body lying dead in the street. His head was missing, but there were no traces of blood or bits of brain matter scattered anywhere in the scene. It was as if his head just popped like a balloon, one neighbor commented. Bob Humbert was described by his neighbors as a quiet individual who mostly kept to himself. At neighborhood get-togethers and barbecues, he would often be the one silently standing in the background, listening in on conversations but hardly partaking in them. Bob was a retired taxidermist who mostly worked from home as a part-time consultant for a gopher stuffing organization. He was estranged from his wife Linda and teenage son Joe, who both moved to Brooklyn after a tumultuous divorce. On the night before Bob's death, Linda received a call from an unknown number. It was Bob, who was calling from an untraceable payphone. Linda could hear Bob's voice shaking on the other end as he struggled to speak. He was erratic, she said. He kept talking about some phone app which he said was taking over everything and that he had nowhere else to go. 3 hours later, Bob's body was found headless in his front yard. The local Whisper police ruled the head explosion as nothing but a freak accident and did not suspect foul play. However, the lack of blood or any traceable brain matter confounded doctors who performed routine autopsies on Bob's body in search of more pressing evidence. Eventually, Bob's body was returned to his family, where he was cremated and had his ashes stuffed in a taxidermized panda. The curious incident of the exploding heads was considered a fluke occurrence, until it happened again, on that very same street, less than a week later. It had been more than a decade since 61-year-old Thelma Ruthenberg left her fourth-floor apartment. Her morbid obesity rendered her practically immobile, and she relied on the downstairs neighbor's son, 14-year-old Mikey Simpson, to deliver her groceries and alcohol. Often, Mikey would find Thelma smoking a cigarette and watching TV in the compact living room of her small apartment. However, in the weeks before Thelma's death, Mikey claims that she never even left her bedroom. Every time I would make a delivery, Mikey says, the kitchen table would be full of unopened grocery bags. Eventually, the food got so rotten that the entire kitchen was full of maggots. On April 10th, at approximately 3:15 a.m., the residents of the apartment building were awakened by massive stomping footsteps slowly descending the building's staircase. Mikey peeped outside his bedroom window to see an out-of-breath Thelma in her nightgown, standing outside the building and trembling. It was then that the screaming started. Thelma's shriek was so loud that it caused the aquarium in Mikey's room to shatter, spilling water all over his carpet and leaving many of his pet goldfish gasping for breath. After almost 3 minutes, the screaming stopped, and the neighbors found Thelma's headless body lying dead in the street. Exactly like with Bob Humbert, no blood and no brain matter was found on the scene. 2 unrelated people in the same town die the exact same improbable way within 1 month of each other. Was this merely a coincidence or the sign of a trend? That question was answered on May 10th when 59-year-old Josh Platter was found headless in the front of his bait and tackle shop less than a mile out of Whisper. Nobody was around to hear the scream, but everybody recognized what had taken place. Josh Platter lived in Whisper his entire life until he left at age 21 to serve in the Marine Corps. He inherited the store from his father-in-law, who passed away, along with Josh's wife, from a mysterious fishing accident. Since then, Josh has mostly lived alone, except for the half a dozen bloodhounds that roam freely around his property. Despite living within such close proximity of each other, Bob, Thelma, and Joe never met in person and virtually had no mutual friends or acquaintances. However, the 3 did have one thing in common. They were all addicted to this one particular phone app that ended up consuming their entire life. Critter Factory is a phone application that creates humanoid animal avatars or fursonas based on the user's likeness as well as their personalities and interests. The app bills itself as the most accurate fursona app on the market and requires users to input as much personal information as possible in order to create a true-to-life animal representation of the user. This includes age, height, weight, religious affiliation, how many children they have, and whether or not they have been hit by a car. Users reportedly spend up to 200 hours a week inputting information and gaining tokens that can be used to buy accessories for their fursonas. As a result, the app developers have an extensive, detailed collection of each user's personal data, and nearly every aspect of the user's lives were documented and surveyed by the app. Detective John Rambo, no relation, believes that Critter Factory may have led to the deaths of Bob, Thelma, and Josh. The app had taken over their lives, Detective Rambo says, and screaming was their only way to escape. The fact that all 3 of them left behind no forensic evidence still remains a mystery. There was also another similarity in these 3 cases that even eluded the police. On each of the victims' bodies, located on the base of their neck, was a tiny tattoo nearly a millimeter wide that read in all caps, "The fire is coming." To be continued. Before we conclude our program for the night, I just want to read a letter from one of our longtime viewers and fan favorite, the Trivia Master. He writes, "Dear Disembodied Voice, I have the Senator chained up in a room that is slowly filling up with flesh-eating piranhas. If you can answer the following trivia question before midnight, I will free the Senator and reveal the coordinates to his location. But you must hurry before he gets eaten alive by piranhas." The question: the last name of an obscure member of the Three Stooges is an anagram for one of the moons in which planet in our solar system? Think you got it figured out? If so, call us with the answer at 1-800-555-8008. Thank you for joining us for another installment of the Disembodied Voice Speaks. This is ML Mysterious, reminding you to always listen to that voice in the back of your head, because as far as you know, it could very well be me. Good luck out there.